When you think of the quintessential sneering white liberal journalist, this woman from The Economist comes to mind.
People think that this man who has all this power, he's the world's richest man, he thinks he has a right to influence our politics. It's why people loathe you. I mean, some people do loathe you.
Maybe some people do loathe me. And that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that, as you pointed out, 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me than don't. And I think a lot more people hate you and the media more than you realize.
Oh, gosh, I love this. I loved every minute of this interview. He's 100% correct. And Ms. Beddoes, this woman, is absolutely clueless. Her rank hatred for Musk is obvious in every syllable she uttered in this just published wide-ranging interview. Now, the indisputable truth is that Democrats are the ones who've gone off the deep end, not Musk. They're going to die, apparently, on this transgender hill of men playing in women's sports. Then they're abandoning the once pragmatic approach to immigration.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem, and the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away.
Yeah, Obama used to be sane. But today, many Democrats would call that Obama a fascist, a xenophobe. And The Economist would probably brand his views far right. But the fact is, those are the views, sweetheart, of the majority of Americans.
You support not just the populist right, but the far right, in fact, very fringe parties in some countries.
No, I support the normal people.
Okay.
What do you call the far right, falsely?
You think as the normal person? Okay.
Yes. Literally, you could go back 10 or 15 years, and these policies were completely normal.
Yeah, I mean, all of those policies, I mean, again, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, all held most of these views. So when he took the bold step of buying Twitter, Elon Musk triggered widespread alarm and public scorn on the left, especially among DC's media elite. There was this headline from the Washington Post: "Why Elon Musk is so polarizing." Journalists rejected his stated goal, which was to restore free speech to social media, as the reason he bought Twitter, and instead they accused him of platforming mis- and disinformation.
It's clear he has a very little understanding of the complexities that go into content moderation.
They want to come in and be able to punch people in the face and walk around and laugh about it and not have anyone be able to stop them. Elon Musk, I guess he misses the old South Africa in the 80s. He wants that back.
It's not just free speech in the abstract. He's publicly courting a right-wing partisan constituency in the U.S., at least for now.
So predictable. It's almost boring. And of course, Musk committed the cardinal sin when he lifted the Twitter ban of Donald Trump back in 2022. They wanted Trump off the field altogether. And then to really set him off, Musk decided to head up Trump's Doge effort. And although he wasn't able to push through all the cuts he wanted, Musk did invaluable work in exposing the obscene waste in government spending. And for that, he was fully excommunicated from some of his old pals. Because when Musk was an Obama supporter back in like 2014, he was cool. And when he described himself as an independent back in 2018, he was super cool. The electric car guy was loved by the Greeniacs. But when he realized that the Democrats had gone crazy, woke, and extremist, and then he started to gravitate a little bit toward the Republicans, well, the break with the old liberal gatekeepers was complete.
It's just normal people. It's just normal people. And here are the principles. And tell me which of these sound terrible. That we should have secure borders, that we should have safe cities, that we should have sensible spending. Which of those three are far right fringe? And I would like to just admonish you and the media for the absurd characterization of the far right. It is false and misleading and nonsense. Please keep this part in.
Well, of course, she did not edit that part out. He called her out. But she did try to bait Elon with the same old tired pejoratives that we've heard for years.
Your interventions, however well-intentioned they may be, risk making Europe's problem a lot worse.
How?
Because you are putting your support behind people who are proto-authoritarians, but who have very clear fascist tendencies, and you will cause huge divisions within Europe.
I think what you're saying is total fiction, and really, I'm simply saying that that Europe has to have secure borders.
Okay. On that we agree
and should not let in vast numbers of people with views that are antithetical to the accepted views in Europe, and where there will not be some level of safe cultural integration. This is simply common sense.
And by the way, the Europeans are turning against the grand migration of the Middle East and Islamic extremists into their countries. Even Sweden's becoming much more anti-immigrant. But of course, The Economist, which Ms. Bedsoe runs, she's the editor-in-chief, they just loathe Trump. In her own words, she told The Guardian, "I'm deeply liberal," and said she was passionate about pushing the agenda of social and economic liberalism. And 8 years later, blinded by Trump hatred and left-wing ideology, The Economist endorsed DEI dimwit Kamala Harris for president.
We wanted to make the case that we think the risks posed by Donald Trump, a second term for Donald Trump, are unacceptably high, both for the U.S. and for the world.
Oh, a hateful woman. Now, the risks of an open border, those weren't unacceptably high for Ms. Bedsoe. Or the risks of losing our edge to China, those weren't unacceptably high, because The Economist has been consistently for open immigration and open markets. Essentially for creating a world where people who cross borders are just as fungible as the goods we trade. Back in 2000, The Economist argued that free trade with China would undermine communism, calling it probably the best thing the West can do to stack the odds against the regime. Then in 2004, The Economist whiffed again, calling outsourcing a myth, and that outsourcing actually sustains American jobs. So doesn't it make you wonder, with her track record, how is The Economist still in business? In the real world, where there are bad actors, trade cheats, communists, terrorists, criminals, The Economist's positions are just indefensible. So it wasn't surprising that in this interview, Ms. Beddoes really didn't engage with Musk on substance, but instead took the lazy route with gotcha questions.
Are you anti-Muslim?
If people are coming to a country with antithetical views, I am against that. I'm against rape and murder. I'm against the imposition of rules and laws that are contrary to what we've come to accept in the West. I think it's a crying shame that the sort of traditional media, like you, don't recognize this.
At that point, Elon should have just dropped the mic and gone out for a beer. And that's The Angle. All right.
All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.